Well, it's one of those questions that always come up. I know. I lost my parents when I was young. Lost my mom when I was probably 6 or 7. I don't know. I'm not quite sure because we weren't living together at the time. And then I lost my dad when I was finishing my primary school. I was like 13. So, and then I, went into high school and I got into this crisis of, trying to find myself, trying to understand myself, trying to understand my family. And so I was thinking that, and so when I started, because I started with kind of rapping, I thought I was a rapper even though I didn't have any musical background, I didn't have anything. So but mostly I was just expressing myself, like with words the best way I could. So I was looking I was thinking about a name to call myself, and I was thinking like, when people think about orphans, you think of, I should feel small about it,
Right.
I should be ashamed about it, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, I don't need to be ashamed about that.
True.
I can embrace that into an identity that,
Yeah.
right? And so with that, I can give it a bit of dignity, and I can bring about hope, to whoever needs it, right? So and then that's basically where Dorphan. So it started with Dorphan, and then Dorphanage is kind of like, it's the all aura.
Right?
Right?
It's an amazing name.
Yeah, thank you.
And so let's get into some politics, bro.
Yeah.
Do you think President Ruto should get another term?
Nah, I think he shouldn't have gotten the first one. So.
But you
So
say
that because I feel I think I'm one of those people, like, well, I'm a student of history, right? I hear people say, like, history is a waste of time, like even people pushing for the new curriculums and saying like history should just be scrapped out. But I feel like we don't take history seriously enough, and it shows. It shows in how we engage in the politics of this country, for real, because this guy from the get-go, there's enough stories from guys who are mentors of his. There's enough stories from guys he's worked with before. Enough stories from 2007. Enough for us to really worry about putting somebody like that on the top seat. Yet, we still did, simply because we don't pay attention to history, right? So for me, I feel like even the first one, he didn't deserve that. But here we are, right? So I don't think he deserves the second.
But, it's interesting because the alternative leadership, most guys are saying they're not solid enough. So we're talking about Gachagua, Kalonzo, even Raila to an extent.
But why are we letting them decide for us who alternative is?
I agree. Okay,
because we're responding to that. Because and I think this is the problem also. Is we've let them reduce us to just reactions, right? We become such a reactionary society. We are waiting for what they're going to do and then we respond to that. Why, if we really need an alternative, why are we letting them teach us what an alternative is to us? Why not build an alternative away from, right?
So, build could mean somebody like Maraga, right? Or Matara, but people are saying they're not really...
They're still been a part of the system. It's
okay.
even that wouldn't be an alternative. It would be a better contingency probably, but it wouldn't really be an alternative, right? If we're talking about alternative, also we have to look at it in that there is nobody who's coming to save us, and that's exactly the narrative that the president sold, right? That I'm coming to save you, like I'm coming to, it's a bottom up. But then he got caught on his lie. What does he do? He starts saying, look, these other guys, I'm the best president Kenya's ever had. We're not asking you about those other guys. We are holding you to account on your promises, right? So why are you telling us about the other guys?
Right.
When it's you who said you're coming to do a better job than they did, right?
So do you feel like whoever we would vote for, this ideal person that you're talking about, somebody that Kenyans, got out of God knows where, right? The savior, quote unquote, right? Do you feel that if you vote any that person, whether it is Maraga or Matara or whoever, right? Do you think we would end up in a different world and not go through the same problems that we've been going through since independence? I'm talking about poverty, corruption, tribalism. We're talking about this debt crisis. Would we be in a different Kenya if we got the ideal candidate? Is that what we're saying?
And this is I don't think the answer is that straightforward, right? And because there isn't one person that is going to save this country, right? Not one person.
I agree.
Right? Like it has to start. We have to start from like a nuclear setup of ownership, right? Because even if we can put Jesus at the top, right? But if we haven't resolved our own contradictions from the ground up, we're just going to turn that Jesus into the devil, right? Basically, because you can't leave all the work to one person, right? And because we want to assume that just by putting somebody up there, that it's enough, right? That we don't need to follow up on the work that is being done. Because, we have MCAs running rampant in the ward level, right? So if you can't hold a mere MCA to account, how do you expect that you're going to hold the president to account, right?
It's true.
If you can't hold the MP, the governor to account, how do you expect you're going to resolve the issues? So it's really bigger than just this one guy, right? Of course, it matters that we have a person of integrity at the top, because that also kind of gives us a national moral high ground to use as threshold, right? But also it's bigger than that one person. Like we have to really start building from the way up, right?
Yeah. And so what about the youth vote? The question is, are the youth organized enough to vote as a bloc?
I think the youth are doing the best with what they've been dealt, right? Because I feel like, and I see sometimes people talking about the youth, being rash and all. But what do you expect? It's not like there's somebody who prepared the youth for this. No, the youth have had to use, to come to terms with the reality they're dealt with and try to resolve it how they can. So the youth are figuring things out, right? And trying to see what's the way forward. Because the way that the way that was prepared for them wasn't working, right? Because one, you told the youth as kids, when they were kids, you told them, this is the goal, right? You work hard, you study hard, this is what you get. And then they get to the goalpost and you're like, nope, let's move it there. No, it's not enough that you worked hard. It's not enough that you studied hard. It's not enough for you. You still have to work harder to get there. And then you get there, they've pushed the goalpost forward again, right? So when people are all, hard with the youth, I'm like, the youth don't, the youth are actually doing a lot if you look at what they're dealt with, right? Because you went to campus and you are told if you get your degree, you're sorted, right? But then you get here and then they tell you, hey, you have no jobs.
But there's the question of also the youth exercising their constitutional right, which is to vote.
Yeah.
In the previous election, we had a very low turnout amongst the youth voters.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to be different this time around? And it's interesting how even IBC are saying, Kenyans, especially the youth, are not excited about even registering as voters. So do you think it's going to be different? Because, first of all, I'm bouncing off whatever happened last year.
Yeah.
The June Maandamanos.
Yeah.
Is that motivation enough for the youth to actually go and register as voters and do what they have to do on the ballot?
This is what I think, right? I think what happened in 2022 was a statement, right? And I think even if the youth don't seem, if IBC is saying the youth are not excited about the registration, it's also a statement. And in essence, the statement the youth are trying to make is that we really don't have faith in the institutions. We really don't have faith in the systems. We really don't, because if it's the same people, right? If it's the same institutions doing the same things they've done, to date, we don't know who killed Msando, right? So if then we should probably start rethinking how do we ensure that there is trust within those institutions and faith in those institutions, so that if you decide to exercise their agency and their voices, then it actually means something, right? The reason we went to the street is because nobody was listening to us, right? Like it's not like we didn't. That wasn't our first option. No. Our first, we tried to beseech the president. We tried to beseech our MPs, and the politicians and our leaderships. But they are like, no, we're passing the finance bill, right?
Let me ask you something.
Right.
Extrajudicial killings, but actually, besides the extrajudicial killings, we'll talk about post-election violence.
Yeah.
Too many Kenyans always get victimized. And I saw the president formed a committee, some sort of committee that is headed by Professor Matara and deputized by the president of the Law Society of Kenya, at the Ambo. So they're saying they're going to compensate victims of, protests, election protests. Do you think that's going to be justice served? Is that a step in the right direction?
No, nowhere near justice served, because there is no gun that shot itself, right? There is no club that operated itself. There was a human being behind the gun, right? And there was an order behind the human being that was behind the gun, right? So we can't throw money at everything, right? Of course, those families need compensation, but at the same time, some people need to be held to account, right? The president included, right? In a working democracy, since we purport to be a democracy, the president should have resigned a long time ago, right? But hey, you're still the person who called us criminals, treasoners, sent the police onto sent the police onto us. Like the deaths that actually happened, they happened, right? It's not like some imagined script that it wasn't a staged thing. Some people supposedly died. We know people died.
So this thing because I'm seeing the High Court actually froze President William Ruto's directive for government compensation to victims of public protests, demonstrations, after a legal challenge by a Nairobi-based lawyer. So this is a step in the right direction. The High Court was like, Apana, let's hold that process first. It doesn't make sense. It has no legal basis.
Tunaweka punda nyuma ya gari bana, like behind the cart, basically. Like we're taking the donkey and putting it behind the cart, and we expect it to, right? The donkey is supposed to be in front of the cart so that it can pull the cart, right? So essentially we have the intention is there, right? And we all want those families to be compensated. But then there are certain steps, once we overstep, then the whole process is flawed, right? Because essentially you're telling me to forget that I lost a son.
Take your money, move on. Right?
You're telling me to forget that I lost a family member. And I know who did it, right? Because and the people who did it, they're still very much employed, right?
So moving forward, let's switch some gears and wrap up the conversation.
Yeah.
So they say self-destruction was passed down through generations and generations of trauma from our great-great-grandparents who, went through slavery. They went through the hands of the Muzungu, the pre-colonial era, the colonial era, down to our parents. All this trauma was passed down to us. And there's an African proverb that says, whenever a new African child is born, that's a message from God that he hasn't given up on African people. Right? What that means is that we need to start raising our kids differently from how we were raised by society and by our parents. Right? So that the new generation can be more proactive. They can engage in leadership in a very intentional manner. They can be radical when it comes to looking at things differently, especially policy conversations. Do you think society is raising our kids to be exactly that? We are still, am I still an endless cycle? We're passing the trauma that we went through as well to our babies.
This is what I know, right? If we don't raise our kids, the kids will raise themselves, right? And the Gen Zs are proving it. The Gen Zs were the ones putting the parents to task. The Gen Alphas are wilder than the Gen Zs.
Apparently.
Right?
Yeah.
So if we don't raise our kids right, the kids will always find, they always find they always make sense because the kids, they learn more from what they're watching than from what they're listening to, right?
Yeah.
So we whether it's either we do that or they are going to phase us out.
Yeah.
One way or the other, they're going to phase us out, right?
Yeah.
Because the moment we stop making sense to them, right? We stop making sense to them, then they will figure out what makes sense too. And we've seen it happen. Like even when, this is legacy media, right? Like what happened when legacy media stopped listening to the voices of the people, and then social media came about. A lot of legacy media was forced to, try and adapt because now, hey, you're forced to go back this way.
By the way, bro, I was actually going to ask you this question about media and storytellers.
Yeah.
When it comes to sharing authentic Kenyan stories and experiences, where do which source do Kenyans trust the most from your experience, right? Where do we get authentic Kenyan experiences and stories? Which platform these days? Is it still the media, or is it social media, or is it individuals like you?
I think the artists have always, I'd like to think that the artists, and mostly because a lot of authentic art also has been forced to the underground. So that has always been, carried the conversation. But also I feel like social media has kind of democratized the space in a way that now I don't have to depend on, I don't have to wake up in the morning and listen to, to Kufu Rais say 1, 2, 3 things, and that's, the ultimate truth. Now I can, I can Google, or go to a site by any other place, or if something is happening in Madagascar right now, there are protests happening in Madagascar, I can actually check that out. There are actually people on the ground in Madagascar who are posting about that, or where we were in the streets, we were the ones posting about that. So even when BBC does the documentary, it was a lot of footage that people uploaded, right?
Correct.
During that. Yeah. So what does that tell you?
Exactly.
Right? So citizen journalism, really takes the lead when all else fails.
When all is said and done, years from now, let's fast forward to the future, when Kenyans in the future look back.
Yeah.
What role do you think writers, poets, thinkers, artists like you will have played in documenting the times that we live in? And do you think you guys have told authentic enough stories for Kenyans in the future to refer to?
I can speak for many people, right? I can't speak for everybody else.
True.
I can speak for myself, right? I think this happening to be the year that we lost Ngugi wa Thiong'o, rest in peace. Then I think that right there is an example of what art can do, right? Because Ngugi didn't just capture what we were going through. Ngugi forced us to think about, what decolonization looks like, right? And even after he's dead, his books are going to make sense to generations, in the future, and they're going to refer to that, but also at the same time, someone said where one story ends is where another begins, right?
It's true,
right? So basically, Ngugi's ended, his storytelling this year, right? And we are carrying that forward. I don't know where mine ends, right? And hopefully for me is that by the time mine ends, I will have inspired more storytellers to carry the story forward.
I
right?
like that. Yeah.
Right. And that's what I try to do. And I can say honestly for sure, like I've spoken to people who've been, who've been impacted by my work enough to, to share that. And it is probably it's the biggest accolade any artist can ask for. When somebody tells you that your work changed how I think, or your work made me feel seen, right? Because even that is something. There's a lot of people out here who don't even know who literally don't exist because they feel like they don't belong here, right? Just to get somebody like that to feel like there is somebody who actually sees me, right? That is powerful.
It really is powerful. That is Dorphanage, the legend, the myth, the brother. He's your brother. You know what I mean? He's telling you stories, he's sharing stories with us that we relate with, but some of us are actually even scared of telling, I guess. Very, very inspiring conversation this has been. I want to play a piece. It's called Grandmother's Ritual by Dorphanage himself. In about 20 seconds, maybe you can just tell us what this is about, Grandmother's Ritual, and what inspired you to actually curate this work.
It was inspired by my grandmother, right? And some of the lessons that I've learned from her. But at the same time, it wasn't just about my grandmother. It's about all the women around us, because how we don't tell the stories of the women in our lives enough, right? And so for me, this is a story I needed to tell.
Thank you so much, Uge, for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a real one.
Yeah, it's been a real one, for sure.
17 minutes after 8. Good evening.
Pure golden sound and good talk. 94.4 Spice FM.